Hi, everyone. Welcome to another session right here in the APVA 2023 Awards. That's the awards for podcasters, voice actors, and spoken word artists. I hope you've been having a great time because I have. And again, I am here to host this discussion session. Well, my name is T Code. You've heard that again and again and again. So, who am I bringing on board this time around? I've got a fellow podcaster. In fact, she's an African podcasters through a platform that we know as Afripods. And as you know, Afripods is a major sponsor in this year's APVA Awards. And we've been working together as communities to push the podcast community in Africa to greater heights. So I've got with me the community manager of Afripods. He's also a content creator and a podcaster with over 4 years experience in the African podcasting industry. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I welcome to talk about our position or our role in this award this year. I'm talking about no other person than Gathoni Ngumba. Hi, Gathoni.
Hi, T-Code. How are you doing?
I am very fine, and it's a pleasure to have you again. I mean, it's almost a year, and it's always a beautiful experience to talk about podcasting with you. And how is Kenya, by the way?
Kenya right now is very cold, but we're surviving. Other than that, we're enjoying ourselves in Kenya.
Exactly. That's the spirit of Africans. We survive and get better.
Yes,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. So this year's award is about celebrating podcasters as we've always done, voiceover artists as well as spoken words artists. And the theme is voices of the future. And it's beautiful that we have Afripods on board. But this time around, we have you as a judge in the podcast category. So first of all, let me ask you the question. How do you feel being a judge in this year's APVA Awards?
It was a great honor when Bidemi asked me to be a judge. The first thought was, am I worthy? You know, a lot of times you have to enter, your brain takes you to that space first. And it took me having to sit down, calling myself to a meeting and being like, you have worked in the space for 4 years, you are a podcaster. So it's deserved. So it was really exciting. It was an absolute honor, especially because it's the second one. I'm really excited about it. So an honor first.
I was hearing a bit of imposter syndrome coming in somewhere there.
When you're creative, it's our best friend and our worst enemy. So that's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah. And just aside now, how's been the journey of podcasting for over 4 years now? Has it been for you? It's not easy, Tell me maybe a
So
bit.
I've worked in the podcasting space for 4 years. I've only been a podcaster for now about a year.
Mm.
And I feel like it's very different being in the two spaces. So creating community for podcasters is a lot more talking to the people, understanding the industry and things like that. Being a podcaster is hard work. So I respect everyone who's been doing it. People like you who've been doing it for as long as you have, I respect you because my podcast is called Okay Kiasi, and I have it with my sisters. And every time we just finish season 3, and every time we end a season, we sit down first and it's just like, are we coming back? What are we discussing this season? We need to take a break, because it takes a lot how much fun for a podcaster as
Mm.
well. So respect to all of you podcasters who've been doing it for a really long time. And let me not discourage anyone who wants to start. It's a lot of work, but any good thing is a lot of work.
Yeah,
So
speaking about work, respect, and not discouraging people, that's why we have this award, to encourage, to celebrate, to support the hard work that
mm.
podcasters put in making their podcast work. So let's talk about the significance of the APVA Award. I'd love you to share your perspective about the award, why an award like the APVA Awards is essential for the industry in Africa, and how do you think this accolades inspire individuals and organizations to surpass their limits and strive for excellence?
Okay, so the importance of the awards. I'm a firm believer that Africans should not wait for people to make space for us. For a long time, we've been made to feel like there's a certain space you need to sit in, and that space is where you are. And until you're allowed to come out of it, that's when you come out and do it. And I feel like what APVA did, what Bidemi did with APVA is she didn't wait for anyone to confirm that podcasters, voiceover artists, and spoken word poets deserve a standing. She said, I think that these people deserve a platform. I can see the work that they're doing. So instead of waiting for someone to create a thing for us, instead of waiting for someone to come and affirm what we're doing, let me create the platform for us to affirm ourselves. Because I feel like sometimes you wait, you know, how when someone's famous in your country, they're famous, but then when they become famous internationally, it almost gives them an extra accolade. I think it's amazing that APVA allows us to have that extra accolade, but from our peers. And I think that it means so much more than coming from that group of people. You know, for so long, like voiceover artists haven't been, I mean, and spoken word poets, you wouldn't think of why should I give them a platform? You know, podcasters, people might think, okay, they're creative, that's what they should do. But it's being able to bring the audio industry together and create a space where it gives podcasters, voiceover artists, spoken word poets a platform, but also lets other people see T-Code won this year, I can become him. It gives us our own people to look to want to be like. So it's not always the voiceover artist in the other side is Chilu Lemba, you know? Chilu did it, he won his award, I can be him. So it's that kind of thing, being able to have those people for ourselves who understand our experiences. And if this person who has come from the same space I've come from can do this or achieve this, then I can do it too. It makes it tangible. So I think that's the importance. And I mean, who doesn't like awards? So as a podcast, you win an award, I'm just like, that I come around saying award winning, you know, it's just bragging rights as well. So for the bragging rights as well, there's it gives power, but it also gives validity to the ecosystem. For our ecosystem, it gives validity. Your stories mean something. So that's why I'm like, tell your stories. Always start your podcast, start your voiceover artist career, give out your poems as a spoken word artist. Let everyone see what you're doing and let's grow it together.
That's beautiful to know. And speaking of bragging rights, you know, maybe when I started my podcast or 3 years ago, I wouldn't have imagined that someone in Kenya would recognize me and my work. And, you know, Chilo Lemba in South Africa has been recognized there in Kenya. So I also love the interconnectivity and, you know, that networking that platforms like this, you know, give to us. And I'm so sure that Afripods has also been leading the charge in this area. But we're going to be talking about Afripod in just a minute. To get into that, let's also talk about your role as a judge. Now, I'm sure that, you know, as the event is going on, people are hearing the winners, and there are a lot of curiosity behind, what went into the judging process? What were the judges looking out for? So give us a sneak peek into what you were looking out for while you were doing the judging process, and why some people were selected and some weren't selected.
Right. So I think I want to start by saying it was really hard, judge, because the selection of what it is people put in, it made it really hard for you to be able to just you couldn't just sit, listen, and put points. You actually had to think about it was hard. So thank you for making my job hard. For the process, what happened is we just got the list of nominees, and we were meant to, based on the audio that was presented by the podcasters, we're just meant to put it in different categories. So like maybe the creativity and things like that. So there was just different columns that we needed to give points for. So we didn't actually have a say in who got into the nomination or not. We just got the full nomination list. So I just want to say that so that no one's like, you people, you judges. No, we did nothing. It was based on who had voted for the people who got the votes in and got on the nomination list. That's the people who got nominated are the ones who we had on the list. So we didn't play any role in choosing who got on the list. And then we weren't necessarily ranking them. It's completely, absolutely dependent on the voting process. So it's, I think, just so that in case there's someone who, like, if you need to, like, tiebreakers and things like that, then that's when the judging process comes in. But I don't know if it will influence as much. It's absolutely up to the people voting. So I hope you voted your favorite podcasters, and I hope they're winning.
I can imagine when you say it wasn't an easy process. Last year, I was part of the judges for the spoken words category, and I could tell so much work had to be done to ensure that we selected the finest of the group. And of course, for you to have made it to the nomination list in the first place, it shows that you're doing something worth credibility. So shout out to all of the nominees, the winners, and we celebrate you all. All right. Now, before we go, let's talk a bit about Afripods. Every time I hear Afripods, I'm proud that we have an African platform that is doing this, and the support that we've been receiving from Afripods as a community, I'm talking about APVA, has been awesome and mind-blowing. So as we round off this session, tell us a bit more about Afripods and why African podcasters should pay more attention to the platform.
Wow. Afripods is a podcast hosting and distribution platform for the Pan-African podcasters. And what we are doing is we're building the largest library of African audio stories on the planet. So we created a space for podcasters to call home. A lot of times, if you look at all the other hosting platforms that are available, we know as African creators, we don't get we're not prioritized is the best way to do it. I'm not trying to start anything, but it's a fact. We know it. Yeah. So we wanted to create a space that feels like you are a priority and we are building it for you. So things like access to, if you're on the platform and you want something built, a specific statistics that's important to you. We had a situation where a podcaster told us they want to know the drop-off rate on an episode, and so we built it. Those are the things that are important to us. If you think about our app is smaller in size because we understand in the market that we're in, data is an issue. So we have to think about things like that when we're thinking about our users. So it's not end Africa, it is Africa first. So that's the kind of platform we have. So I would say if you're looking for an African podcast and you haven't listened to any, download the Afripods app or go to our website, afripods.africa, and you can find there's very many podcasts, because a lot of times people haven't had podcasts before from Africa. So they're like, where do I find them? I know the best thing is because of our categorization, you don't have to, everything's African, so it's not, are you on page 5? It's all African, we're genuinely prioritizing Africa. So add your podcast to Afripods. It's very easy steps. But we just wanted to create a space for African creators. We are working on finding or creating a monetization option for African creators, because we know, again, that's something that's very important for us. And again, no one else is going to prioritize it. So that's what we're working on. So not only to have African creators have a platform, but also have them be able to earn from their work. Those are the priorities we have as Afripods. So if you're an African podcaster and you're not an Afripods, why?
Why?
Today.
Come on.
I know why. And hosting is free, so you really have no excuse.
It is. And monetization is coming soon. Yeah, it's...
And it's coming soon. If you're hosted, you get money faster.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So thank you so much. It's been a beautiful time again.
We're working on building community as well for African podcasters. So if you want to meet podcasters in your area, if you want to meet podcasters across the continent, check out Afripods. We're at Afripods on all social media platforms, and you can see what we have planned for podcasters.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Gathoni. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. And just before I go, I want to hear, what's the name of your podcast again, so we can go listen to it en masse, and enjoy.
My podcast, which I co-host with my sisters, is OK Kiasi. That's OKAYKIASI. It's available everywhere you listen to podcasts, but especially on Afripods.
On Afripods. And you can also find my podcast, Everything Voiceover Podcast, African Perspective, also on Afripods and everywhere you can listen to podcasts. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this session, this beautiful session with the beautiful Gathoni. And we get back to the rest of the APVA Awards. I'm T-Code, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.